How's it going, everybody? My name is Neil Villapiano, and welcome back to another edition of the Mofobo Network here on YouTube. And as always, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to check this out. It means a lot to me. Here we talk about, anything that revolves around the wide world of sports. And as always, we have great topics to talk about in the world of sports that we're dealing with, even though we do have the COVID-19 situation still continuing as we are now 2+ months into this. I think we're about 68 or 69 days now without live sports here in the United States. And I know that we've obviously had some things like, I think there's been like some UFC fights, some golf, a little bit here and there, and also NASCAR that Fox was showing. We also have been able to see some live soccer in Germany with Bundesliga, which is the top tier soccer league in Germany. And they actually recorded, I think, something around the area of 6 million views, via, TV, because obviously there's no fans. But, television-wise, they got a huge amount of money from the amount of views that they got. So good on them. But as far as the major sports, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, even soccer here in the United States, we still have not gotten off the ground when it comes to really having a set date and a plan for, what sports is going to be like once we get to the other side of this COVID-19 pandemic. And today, as you can see by the background that I have here, we are going to be talking about Major League Baseball. More specifically, we're going to be talking about something that has been pretty much discussed on almost an hourly basis at this point, that kind of started with, last week, and basically has been something that has been discussed, over and over again for basically since we had, stoppage of sports here in the United States. And what this is about is basically this. Last week, Major League Baseball put out a 67 or so page report, or as they called it, a protocol for how they were going to handle having players come back and actually starting the season, and what type of things were they going to do to ensure, in their minds, the players' safety and how things were going to go in this new norm that we are going to be dealing with. And let's just say there are a lot of backlash to this. The first thing that really jumps out to me is all about the testing, because I think that's a very important topic, because we say to ourselves, well, how are these guys going to get the tests? And how are they going to get it so that it doesn't look like they're taking tests away from the millions of other people that are not professional athletes that are still waiting to get tested? Well, Major League Baseball, through the advice of doctors that they have and their experts that are giving them the information, they said that they need about 10,000 COVID-19 tests per week, which is a huge amount of testing. And we're talking about per week, because what Major League Baseball is saying is that they're in theory going to be testing these players almost on a daily basis, because they said that they're going to do temperature screening daily. If somebody comes up with the symptoms, that they're going to be tested almost right on the spot. And they were also talking about the fact that if somebody were to get the COVID-19, if they were to test positive, that they would immediately be put in quarantine for, I think, something up to 8 or 9 days, a little more than a week. They said that 2 weeks was from what their experts told them was not necessary. And then you have the questions of, well, what if someone else, that was around that person who has COVID-19, what are the chances that they get infected? Do we have to test them? I think most likely that would be the case. There's still so much unknown that we have that, when you saw this protocol right away, you would immediately have a lot of questions, like I do. I have questions similar to most people, and that is, if somebody were to get, infected by another, a player who's already been determined that they have COVID-19, how exactly, do we test them? Do we just, if they're not showing any symptoms, do we just keep letting them play? Like what exactly are we dealing with here? So that's really the one of the big things in this. And Major League Baseball does have a lab in Utah that they're going to get and create these tests. So I don't know if this is going to give them less backlash from the media, not just sports fans, but just people in general, are they going to get backlash? Because if you remember back, early on when COVID-19 was really, really, huge right off the bat, the NBA, particularly the Brooklyn Nets, they had several players that got tested for the virus, and they proved to have it. And then I think it was Governor Cuomo and also Mayor de Blasio said, well, why did they get those tests so easily when you have millions of people even in this state that are never even going to get the opportunity? And that caused a lot of backlash. And of course, that's why the NBA has kind of, stopped doing any testing at all, because they just don't want to be in that position. And Major League Baseball is hoping that that's not the case. I still think that they'll get some backlash anyway, but, at least that they have something sort of in place to make it look a little bit more, like, oh, well, they're just doing it, they're not taking tests away. They're just, doing this. And, that's how it goes. But the another main thing is that Major League Baseball, the main goal for them is that they want to have a season. They're hoping to have the facilities prepared and ready to go by early June. And, we're in the middle of May, it's May 19th. And, it seems less likely as we get closer that that's going to be the case, specifically because nothing has been agreed to by the MLB or the MLB Players Association. And we'll get into that whole, situation in just a few minutes. But the Major League Baseball is hoping for a, early June kind of like, reopening facilities, and then spring training if they're going to have it. And then hopefully a early to mid-July start on opening day, which I would say this, July is going to be a big month for where everything is, not just sports, but, everything from things that are reopening, where can people go? Where will they feel comfortable? Where they will feel safe? I live in New Jersey, and, we're being told that, before Memorial Day, a lot of the things that were closed before are going to be reopened. And we're already seeing that. And we're wondering, like, are we getting closer to a vaccine? Are we, or are we just, trying to, restart the economy so that it doesn't really go down the tubes? There's those questions. So it will be interesting from now until I would probably say July 1st, where things are in the world. And obviously with us talking particularly about a sport, an American sport. But yeah, so the Major League Baseball, that's their game plan for this. I do expect things to change, especially with some of the other things we're going to be discussing from this protocol. Another thing that came up was the protocol says that each team is allowed to have at the most 50 players. And that also, I think, also involves staff. I think that's what they were talking about. And they said that any player or personnel that is not participating in the game would be in the stands and would be, several seats apart. I think they said 5 or 6 seats apart. Like that's, a lot. So technically you could say that there will be fans in the stands, but it'll pretty much just be personnel from both sides. So, it'll be weird if that ends up being the case. It'll definitely be weird at first to see that. Another thing that's very important is where are we going to play these games? Because not every state is going to be ready by the time Major League Baseball expects to have, the opening day of this Major League Baseball season. Now, it was reported yesterday on May 18th that Governor Cuomo of New York said that he has advised all sports teams in the state of New York to reopen with no fans. So Cuomo is already saying that the Yankees and Mets can begin to start, being allowed to do that. So that will help, considering New York, and even more particularly New York City, is such a huge market, and it is such a vital market. We also know Texas and California are starting to reopen sports as well. So we are seeing slowly but surely things being reopened and states being given, the green light, so to speak. So it's a positive thing, but we're not going to be 100% there by the time we reach early July. Particularly, in my opinion, it's June 1st that we're really going to be, that day is going to be very huge, because we'll see where things are at that point. So it's a question of, well, where are we going to play these games? And I've heard places like Las Vegas, Florida, up in the mid, I think they call it like the mid-north, I think like Montana, Minnesota, Michigan, places like that. If we are only going to have a few select places, they got to be determined in the next week or two. They really do, especially if you're going to bring out a second protocol that would be more to the liking and to more of an agreement between the players and the owners of Major League Baseball. So that's going to be something that we need to see more progress on. I know in the National Hockey League, Gary Bettman said just basically yesterday that there's a list of 8 to 10 cities that they already have determined where they feel very comfortable to have games be played. So that's a positive right there. And that's what we hope for Major League Baseball could be the same thing. So you do have that. Another thing, and this is something that's going to be very hard because it's a force of habit from all the players and basically just human nature in general is no high fives, no spinning of any kind, no fist pumps, no hugs, things like that, like no type of interaction. Now, Major League Baseball, other than, when you compare it to, football or basketball or even hockey, there's definitely less, human to human, contact, but still there's still that situation where, somebody hits a home run to win a game, you want to go crazy. You want to jump on, on your teammates. You want to high five, you want to do all this. What is that going to be like when we be given these rules? And then you want to take it a step further and say, what is the punishment going to be like if one of these teams or players do that? Like, are they just going to be suspended? To me, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any sort of repercussions from it. Maybe fines, but that might be the biggest thing that we get, because it's just like, then every player could do it in one day, and all of a sudden, what do? You just suspend everybody and you bring in replacement players? Like, I know that's crazy, but that was just like, that's what I think a lot of people have the thinking of. It's like, what, where are we going? Like, what exactly is going to be a punishment if that's the thing? So to not have those interactions is going to be tough, especially in those big emotional moments. When I watch some of Bundesliga soccer in Germany, a lot of the time players were celebrating 6 feet apart, and they were like doing a dance or something, or they were high elbowing. I mean, they were using their things. So I don't know if that's going to be similar to what we're seeing. So that's going to be another big head scratcher and big determining factor for when we really get down to the nitty gritty of this protocol. Another thing, and this is so frustrating to me because I have two major questions with this one. A ball will be thrown away after it's been touched by multiple players. They're also going to the fact that they're saying throwing the ball around the infield is not going to be permitted. Bullpen pitchers are going to have their own set of balls to throw and things like that. Well, here's the thing. If a pitcher, let's talk about it from a standpoint. If a pitcher in a game throws a ball and the batter does not swing at it and make contact with it, it goes into the catcher's mitt, and then the catcher throws it back. It's already been touched by multiple people. Once it's more than one person, it's multiple people. Even if it's just two, it's just more than one person. So again, it's like after every pitch, you just toss that ball? Like, is that what we're dealing with? And then another thing is this. Since Rawlings is the main company with regards to, making baseballs, their production is going to be, quadruple the amount that they were, originally making when everything was normal. And so it's like, how many baseballs are you going to use per game? Like over 100, 200? Like, I know that probably is just a, exaggeration, but, you get my point. So it's a question of like, how exactly are you going to determine when it's been touched by enough players to say, okay, get rid of that ball? If it's been hit into left field and all the left fielder makes, grabs the ball, throws it to the shortstop, and the shortstop throws it to the pitcher, like, is that what we consider it? Like, so that's a really big question that frustrates me, because it's like, what exactly are we going to do? Like, you might as well have, honestly, you might as well have a bucket that is protected by some caging or something like that, right on the pitcher's mound, where the pitcher can grab the ball, dump it into the bucket, which has like maybe disinfectant and water and things like that, and just do it every time, and almost have like a spitball type of thing. And then you have a towel that dries it. Like, basically baseball was dealing with being criticized for the game is too long and we have to speed it up. that's just going to that's obviously going to make the game go 2 times slower than what it already is. So that's just, that's shooting yourself in the foot, basically, in my opinion. That's adding insult to injury. And that's a tough thing. One thing before I continue is that I think that Major League Baseball should really research and contact the people involved in the Korean baseball organization, the KBO League, that is going on right now, and say, what are you guys doing? Because then they can take a lot of what the KBO is doing and implement it into what they're trying to do. To me, some of this seems like we're thinking too much into this, but at the same time, you could say it's better to be safe than sorry, as the old saying goes. So you have that question, you have those questions that you need to find answers, and doing something like contacting the KBO and saying, hey, what are you doing? Or you could ask Bundesliga in Germany and say, hey, what are your protocols? So that you can take that information and use it and create your protocol that is going to be beneficial and safe for the players and everyone else involved. I think if you were to ask as many people as possible, I think that would go a long way. Right now, I understand that we're talking about 2 different countries contacting each other, but we're all in this together. This entire world is in this together to try to solve and cure and defeat this pandemic that has affected millions upon millions of people every single day. We have to find a way to do that so that our economy and our society can get going again, so that we can rebuild, what we had in place to make it better and to be more prepared for things like this that could happen, down the road, even as soon as, the fall, with all the talks about possibility of a second wave, which I think can still be a very big possibility. So that's unfortunate with that. Now, going back to the protocol. Here is the number one thing that has pissed me off about this protocol. No showers are allowed to be taken at the stadiums. Now, I understand, again, the spread of germs and things like that. But guess what? If you have guys that don't get to shower when they're done with the game, and they're getting interviewed, and even though they're 6 feet apart, they're still getting interviewed by the media, it could spread. They could have germs that could spread. Here's one thing that I'll tell you guys really quick. When I go out grocery shopping, for my family, and I'm usually the only one that goes out and about, basically, I make sure that, like, when I get home, I immediately just, go and take a shower, disinfect myself, use mouthwash, like everything, because you don't know what exactly you have. Even though I have gloves on and a mask and all that stuff, it could still spread, in other ways that we don't really know, because we don't have all the answers. So it's better to be safe to do that, to not allow players to shower so they can get off all the dirt and grime and other things like that. That's just a very bad idea. And the longer that they don't take the shower, the more likely that they're spreading, germs and things like that. And you don't know what could be spreading. And that's a very tough thing to deal with. So I think that that's a really bad idea to say no showers, you got to do it when you get back to the hotel. Well, there are other people other than the athletes that are staying at this hotel. They could get infected some way, somehow. And for all I know, it's because one of the players had it. And, had they showered, maybe they would have prevented that from happening. Like, it's things like that. So that's a really, really bad idea, in my opinion. It's probably the worst of the ideas I saw in the protocol. And I kind of skimmed through the report that was originally put out there by The Athletic, about the 67-page report. So I kind of skimmed through it. And that was the thing that really stood out to me. It's been a huge topic of discussion, especially over the last couple of days. So that's really the thing. And then I also will bring up something I had mentioned before, and that was temperature screening daily. So these players, every day when they wake up, they're going to be, they're going to have their temperature taken. I think they're also going to be having their temperature taken again at night. If their temperature is not normal, then they will immediately get, I think, a COVID-19 test and, things like that. And so, they're definitely going to be doing it. And the problem is that we do have other, sicknesses that are out there. You could just have a cold. You could have literally the regular flu, for all we know. and you just don't know. Or you just, it's, you know, you may just have a fever. Like, we don't know. Like, and so that's the problem with, like, we're not sure with it. But hopefully with the COVID-19 test, still taking it, even if they're not positive, it will help to kind of figure out and contain kind of, where it's coming from. Another thing that I found out is that if a player tests positive, they need to then have 2 consecutive negative tests before they are allowed to go back and play. So they're just saying, hey, we have to make sure you are 100% cured, not cured, but, rid of the COVID-19 and you can go back and play. So that's going to be a big thing, because somebody might have, constantly get positive for the next 3 or 4 weeks, and all of a sudden they're like a whole month has gone by and they're still not fully, cured. Another big thing, and let's just call it like it is, there are players with families and loved ones that want to be there with them, and they might not get the chance to spend time with them at all during the entire season. It's almost like they're going overseas basically and not getting a chance. And a lot of players are worried that, what if I spread the disease to my loved ones? God forbid. And so players have expressed their, opinions about, they're afraid for things like that. And there was a player in particular, and we'll get into that in just a moment, that, it was more about the money. But again, when you look at it from the whole standpoint, you could say, yeah, I mean, there are players that it's not just about the money for them. It's about, they have loved ones and teammates that they care a lot about that they don't want to spread it to, and we still have so many questions unanswered that nobody's going to feel comfortable by July unless we have a gigantic miracle in the next couple of weeks or even in the next month. There's still going to be, a lot of uncertainty. The Premier League soccer league in the UK, the top tier league in the UK, they started saying, I think something like tomorrow, that which is Wednesday the 20th, players can go back to training. And one of the captains of one of the teams, I think it was Watford, that said the captain for Watford said, I'm not going to go and do this and put my son in danger, because I could come home, I could have it and have no idea and not have any symptoms to it. He could get it, and and I hate saying it like this, but he could die from it. And so that's a really scary thing when you have that situation. Obviously, if you're single and you don't have any significant loved ones that are living with you and are near you, you may not feel the same way. But if you're someone who has a family, who has a kid, loved ones, you're gonna wanna make sure that it's 100% safe. Like 100. We can't just be like, oh, it's 95% safe. No, because you still have a 5% chance of it still happening, and that's still a pretty good amount. You want to make sure 100% that it's safe, it's foolproof, and it's ready to go. Then you can get players to feel more comfortable. And Robert Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, was on CNN a couple days ago, about 4 or 5 days ago, and one of the hosts asked a really good question. If a player says to Robert Manfred, or just Major League Baseball in general, that, hey, I don't feel comfortable with playing because of the COVID-19, we're still uncertain and everything, Robert Manfred, that they were asking basically, how would you respond to that? And Commissioner Manfred said, basically, he said, look, we want to make sure that all the players are safe and that they feel comfortable coming, but we're not going to force them if that's the case. We're not going to force them. And I appreciate that, because again, we talk about all the time, all these guys are in it for just the money. And you could still make that argument very much that if money wasn't an issue in any of these sports leagues, probably all of them would be canceled right now until further notice. But because there's so much money on the line, and particularly there's a lot with Major League Baseball because they are a seasonal operation, they really need and really want to have a season. And we'll go into some of those numbers in just a moment. But sticking with the players, here was another thing that came up. Back in March, Major League Baseball Players Association and the MLB owners agreed that the players would take a 25 or 20% pay cut for this season, so that the MLB could regain some of the money to try to have it, so that they can prolong and get ready for next season, because in case that they really did have to cancel. Just last week, Major League Baseball came back and said, we want the players to take a 50% pay cut. And immediately, MLBPA said, no way, that's not going to happen. There was one player, and then a player that kind of responded and agreed with the first player, that pretty much went out in public and said that he wasn't going to do that. And that was Blake Snell, the Cy Young Award-winning pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays. He was on a Twitch stream, and he said, quote, I'm not playing unless I get mine. That's what he said. Now, Blake Snell, when he won the Cy Young a couple of years ago, he only got $500,000 for winning it. That was his salary. He then signed recently a $50 million extension. So he is about to become a millionaire. He wasn't a millionaire before, but he's about to. So he's talking about saying, you're asking me to risk my life and my loved ones' lives because I could infect them, to go out there and perform. And, you're also telling me that I need to give you half of my money back. That's not going to happen. He's basically saying, because let's face it, when people first heard that, they said, hold on, you have millions of regular people in this country and in this world that have filed for unemployment that are not getting them, that won't get any sort of compensation whatsoever, which, I sympathize with 100% and I don't disagree with at all. But what Blake Snell is saying is not what you may think, but he's saying this. I want to be out there to entertain fans and just people in general, to give something for them to distract themselves from what's going on and have something to look forward to. But I'm not going to do it if it means that I'm risking my life with very little safety. And you're also asking me to give up half of the money I'm making. And so that was his argument. And then a good friend of his, and now Philadelphia Phillies right fielder Bryce Harper, who signed last spring, he signed a 13-year, $350 million deal with the Phillies, said also on a Twitch stream that he agreed with him and said, quote, somebody had to say it. And Bryce Harper, obviously, he doesn't want to give up half of the $350 million. But again, it's the same thing. The argument that they're saying, the players are saying, is this: hey, I don't want to go out there and risk my life where I could get sick, maybe even die, or I could get someone I love sick and they could die, and also have to give up, half of the money that I'm making. I think if you were to ask a lot of, workers out there, hey, we want you to go out and, do like, let's use doctors and nurses as a really good example. I think it's a really good example. You're asking them to go out there in the hospitals on a day-to-day basis, and they are constantly, even though they have masks and gloves and everything like that, they're still, dealing with people that have the damn virus. And then all of a sudden you tell them, hey, we want to cut half of your salary because we're trying to, do whatever so we can hold on for it, for a later date. A lot of doctors and nurses are not going to be happy with, now you're asking me to risk my life, knowing that at any moment I could be infected, even though I'm doing everything I can to make sure, or I could pass to someone else that I love, and also the fact that I have to give up half of my salary to work day in and day out with this. That ain't going to work. I think that there will be, I think, this is my opinion. I'm not saying this as a fact. Understand, this is an opinion of mine. I think that a lot of doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners would say no to that. No to that. And a lot of them are not getting paid a whole lot, anyway, as they should be getting paid a lot for what they do. To take 50% of what they're making right now, that could really put them in dire straits, to the point where they may have to file for unemployment because of that situation. But that's basically what Blake Snell and Bryce Harper are pretty much arguing with this. I will criticize them, though, for the fact that they did this before MLBPA could go back and have another meeting with the MLB owners. You got to let them have leverage. They kind of lost some leverage by saying that, but you have to give the MLBPA the opportunity to go back to the negotiating table and say, okay, look, our players said this, and this is what we have to go off of. So don't take that out, forget about it. It's not going to happen, and go from there. And one solution that I have, and I actually heard this from Jeff Passan of ESPN, and I agree with this, is let's defer the freaking money that players are making now to next season. And the reason I say that is because of this. A lot of these players are still going to make a good amount this year, so let's go with that first. Number two is that they will get a lot more money in the next 2 or 3 years when we start really getting back to some form of a normal MLB sports schedule. And particularly for free agents, they could make an extraordinary amount of money in the next couple of years. Some guy like Chris Bryant, I remember his agent, Scott Boras, said, look, because of the fact that we may just defer money, Chris Bryant can make double or triple what he was actually going to make on the market because the market is going to be a lot different. So that's going to be a very, very interesting thing. I think that would be a very good idea, and I think MLB should really take that in consideration. And honestly, I can't really see the Players Association disagreeing with it too much. I could see them maybe trying to find a little loophole here or there, but I think honestly, if they just decide we're going to defer the money from this year to next year and just offload it, I think that would be a very good idea. I think that from the money standpoint, I think that would be the smartest thing. Here's the thing we do have to remember though. 33 million plus people have filed for unemployment. I know a lot of people personally that filed for their unemployment check and have still not gotten it. And there is a good chance that they may never get it. So we have to take that into consideration and say this. If this whole argument, this whole topic of discussion that we're having is just about the money, when more people have filed for unemployment than almost, I think, or just past what it was when we had the Great Depression, you're going to lose a lot of fans. That's what I wanted to say. Basically, you're going to lose a lot of people because people are going to get frustrated because they want to see live sports, they want to see this entertainment, they want to have a distraction, and for them to just cancel the season and just say we couldn't come to an agreement because of money and nothing else, that's a very sad thing. The arguments and the discussions on the table should be about safety and then worry about the money. Once we can guarantee 100% safety and with proven things that are going to work, then you could go back to the money situation. Don't try to put it in now. That's a problem. That's why I think if they just came to the decision to defer the money to next year, they could just say, all right, fine. Let's move on to a much more important topic of discussion here. We're talking about people's lives. There's a lot of people who, mentally have just completely lost it because their daily routine has been completely shattered. They don't have much to look forward to, and people are dying all the time. And there's so much grieving that's going on, and no way for these people to have a proper way to grieve or to say goodbye to loved ones or, say goodbye to a job that they've known for 20 plus years. Let's just keep that in mind. And, for Blake Snell and Bryce Harper, there are 33 million plus people that have something to say about the way that they put out saying, oh, you care that much about, millions of dollars when my family is living off of welfare or, living paycheck to paycheck? Like, are you really complaining about that? That's why I explained what the deeper meaning of why Blake Snell and then Harper kind of, agreeing with the comment, what they were really trying to say. But the bottom line is this. There are a lot of people out there, millions and millions of people out there that do not have a job right now, and they don't have much to look forward to. President Trump and also a lot of people in our society have made it clear that sports is a very important thing when it comes to the society getting back to where we would like it to be, and hopefully as a more positive than it was before. And we need the economy to get back to a better place. And sports is going to be a huge catapult to getting to that point. So there is that pressure. So I think that Major League Baseball and all the sports leagues should really, remind themselves of that on a day-to-day basis to say, hey, listen, it's not about just us. It's about making sure that it's just making sure that people get an opportunity to watch and have something to look forward to, something they could do with their families, something that they can, distract themselves for just 2 or 3 hours from, everything like that. I remember when the NFL, canceled their games for a week after 9/11, but then they realized that they had to come back and play these games so that even for just a couple hours, people who were so affected by the tragedy that was the 9/11 attacks could just not necessarily forget, but to have something positive and something that could put a smile on their face for a couple of hours. That's what Major League Baseball needs to be understanding that they're dealing with right now. There are millions of people out there that don't have a job. They may not get a job in the next year. They're going to be struggling to make payments, to support for their families, to eat, things like that. And they're looking for something, anything right now to, have something to look forward to and to be happy that it's coming. And Major League Baseball and all these sports, they have that obligation and they have to try to make it work to almost pure perfection. And if that means it's going to take some more time, we have to take as much time as possible. And I know that Robert Manfred did say that I think that they were losing something like $600,000+ a game with no fans. And I understand that that's going to be devastating. But what's going to be more devastating is that if you don't have a season at all, you're going to have owners that are going to lose up to $4 billion freaking dollars by the end of 2020. $4 billion. And for small market teams, that could mean the end of their existence. We could have a situation where a handful of teams could just not even be existing by the time a 2021 season could happen. So that's a pretty big deal because of the fact that Major League Baseball is a seasonal operation. But at the end of it, and this is how I'm going to conclude it and just, really come out and say it. You have people out there that are really, really counting on sports coming back and coming back very soon. We are starting to see that in some other countries and a little bit here in the United States. But really, those major sports, and even with Major League Baseball, you have to start coming up with a, proven plan that's going to be safe for players to come back, for personnel to come back, and eventually, even a year from now, for fans to come back and to really enjoy something that is a great distraction from a lot of the horrible, horrible, horrible things that are going on in our country and in our world even today. And so I really hope that Major League Baseball can move past this. They can come to a bona fide, detailed, well-organized agreement. Test these things. Test the tests. Test the ideas that you have. Call other leagues. Get as much information as possible and go from there. So for Robert Manfred, a lot of it is on you. And also from Will Clark, the commissioner of the MLB Players Association. Gentlemen, you have to start getting things moved in motion. We're in the middle of May. People are still waiting on sports. You want to get a season to happen, you got to start coming to an agreement. And if it's really all about money, if it really truly is, people like myself are going to lose a lot of respect and a lot of interest of Major League Baseball. And that could be catastrophic. Beyond your wildest imaginations, could be catastrophic for people in this country. They need sports. They need a distraction. Let's get it done. Let's get the protocols done. Let's make this as safe as humanly possible. Go from there. People will appreciate just seeing live sports and seeing guys perform, and hopefully the players will be satisfied as well. And we can all just try to slowly but surely move back into some form of normalcy. So that is what I hope from this whole thing. And with that being said, that is going to do it for this edition of the Mofobo Network. As always, thank you guys so much for spending some time to check this out. It means a lot. I know it's been quite some time since I last put out a video, but I'm glad I did this. I thought this was a very important thing to discuss, and I'm really happy that you guys tuned in and listened to it and watched it. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free in the description, well, not in the description, but in the comments below to say what's on your mind And, let me know, because I always want to know what people have to say and what your opinions on the situation that we're dealing with at hand. Also, if you want to continue to contact me and ask me questions, follow me on Twitter at THENVPSHOW and on Instagram at NVPQB11. Go check those out. The links will be in the description as well. Go check out the Mofobo Network podcast. It's on Anchor and also on Spotify. Just search for my name or the Mofobo Network podcast, like you see here with Mofobo Network. Just put in podcast and you'll find it. Go check it out on Facebook as well. And you can also check out my regular Facebook at Neil Villapiano. But we also have the Mofobo Network Facebook page where you can stay up to date with posts on videos and podcasts. We have a couple more great guests coming up in the next couple of weeks. Try to get out an episode per week. I'm going to definitely try to get on a consistent basis with the YouTube channel as well. Hopefully getting out a video per week, and just like this one. But yeah, and last but not least, make sure to also please go check out my book on Amazon.com titled JETS Pain, Pain, Pain. The pain and ecstasy. Yeah, forget the ecstasy of being a Jets fan, a New York football Jets fan. So please go check that out. If you're a Jets fan, a football fan, if you just want to support me, or if you know somebody that is a football or a Jets fan, that book is definitely for you. Both available on hardcover and ebook for the right old price of $19.69. If you're a Jets fan or a football fan, you probably know why I chose that price, but definitely go check it out. And as always, let me know what you think. So thank you all so much for checking this out. And as I always say at the end of every YouTube video and podcast episode, no matter what is going on in the world, particularly with the COVID-19 situation right now, no matter what hardships you're dealing with on a daily basis, when you wake up in the morning, just remind yourself to kick some Mofobo. Once again, thank you all so much. My name is Neil Villapiano, and I will check you all in the next episode. Have a great day, be safe, and God bless.